XRP holders, it's time to buckle up like never before, because what analysts are calling the final showdown between bulls and bears is now unfolding right before our eyes. After years of legal battles, regulatory uncertainty, and endless speculation, XRP is standing at the edge of what could be its most explosive breakout in history. The stars are aligning: technical breakouts, ETF filings, macroeconomic shifts, and institutional momentum. And the next few months could change the lives of XRP holders forever. If you've been patiently holding through the storms, this may finally be the moment you've been waiting for. The entire crypto market is currently buzzing with bullish energy. Bitcoin has surged above $116,000, Ethereum is hovering close to setting a new all-time high, and Binance Coin, BNB, has broken past the $920 mark, shattering its previous records. Across the board, digital assets are flashing green, with even meme coins like Dogecoin showing strong rallies. Yet the most compelling story isn't about BTC or ETH, it's about XRP. While the top two cryptos are already flirting with their all-time highs, XRP is still lagging nearly 20% below its previous high of $3.68. This gap signals untapped potential, and analysts believe it's only a matter of time before massive liquidity rotates into XRP to close that distance, and possibly push far beyond it. One of the biggest drivers of XRP's bullish outlook is the growing expectation of XRP exchange-traded funds, ETFs. ETFs open the door to massive institutional inflows because they allow traditional investors, pension funds, hedge funds, family offices, and even everyday retirement accounts, to gain exposure to crypto without directly holding the tokens. According to veteran analyst Mason Verilis, approval of XRP ETFs is no longer about if, but when. The precedent is clear. In 2024, Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs received regulatory approval, triggering billions of dollars in inflows and sending both assets soaring. XRP is the logical next step. The fact that ETF filings are already in motion suggests regulators are moving closer to acknowledging XRP as a legitimate, investable asset class. When that green light is given, analysts believe the resulting liquidity could catapult XRP into a new price era. For months, XRP traded within a frustrating consolidation range. Price action was narrow, momentum was weak, and many traders lost interest. But according to technical analyst CW, that consolidation has ended. XRP has broken out of its convergence zone, signaling the start of a new upward trend. This breakout isn't just a minor move, it's part of a larger bullish setup that suggests XRP is preparing for an explosive rally. CW's charts point toward an immediate upside target of $4.40 to $5.60, which would establish a new all-time high. Once that psychological barrier is broken, XRP could enter price discovery, where the absence of historical resistance allows for parabolic moves. Traders are already positioning themselves for this next leg upward, recognizing the unique combination of undervaluation and renewed momentum. One of the most overlooked signals in this market is the Fear and Greed Index. Despite all the bullish momentum, the index remains in neutral territory. This is critical, because in past cycles, extreme greed has only lasted a short time before corrections set in. For example, during Bitcoin's parabolic run in late 2024, the market only sat in extreme greed for about a month before cooling off. Right now, we are far from those levels of euphoria. This means that the market still has plenty of fuel left to burn. Retail demand hasn't reached its peak, institutions haven't gone all in yet, and mainstream media hasn't fully hyped XRP. In other words, sentiment is far from overextended, giving XRP room to run before overheated conditions force a correction. Analysts stress that this is one of the most bullish setups possible, a rising market with sentiment that hasn't yet boiled over. Beyond crypto-specific catalysts, global macroeconomic conditions are also aligning in XRP's favor. For the first time in years, the Federal Reserve is signaling dovishness. Analysts at JP Morgan and other financial giants expect a 25 basis point rate cut in the upcoming Fed meeting. Why does this matter? Because lower interest rates increase global liquidity, making risk assets like cryptocurrencies more attractive. In past cycles, tightening Fed policy drained money from speculative markets. Now, with inflation cooling and global liquidity indices approaching all-time highs, the Fed's pivot creates the perfect storm for a crypto-wide surge. XRP, as a top 3 digital asset with a strong use case narrative, stands to benefit massively from this liquidity injection. Beyond charts and macroeconomics, XRP has a secret weapon that even Bitcoin and Ethereum can't match: its community. XRP's army of holders has endured years of skepticism, FUD, and even lawsuits, yet they've remained unwavering in their belief. Analysts point out that the XRP community is arguably stronger and more loyal than Bitcoin or Ethereum maxis. This matters because crypto markets thrive on belief and adoption. With over $5.7 billion in daily trade volume and a global network of passionate supporters, XRP's community ensures consistent demand and advocacy. When liquidity rotation begins flowing into undervalued large caps, XRP, with its strong base and room to grow, becomes one of the most attractive plays on the board. So, where does all of this leave us when it comes to XRP's potential? Analysts have laid out a wide spectrum of projections that balance conservative expectations with more aggressive, high-stakes scenarios. On the cautious end, XRP could reasonably climb past the $4.40 to $5.60 range in the near term, particularly if the current market uptrend holds and retail participation strengthens. This conservative target assumes steady but not explosive growth, with XRP following broader market momentum without the need for extraordinary catalysts. However, the conversation takes a more ambitious turn when factoring in the possibility of ETF approvals, large-scale institutional inflows, and supportive macroeconomic conditions such as rate cuts or a weaker US dollar. Under these circumstances, analysts argue that XRP could realistically aim for a $500 billion to $1 trillion market cap, a milestone that would represent one of the largest re-ratings in the crypto industry's history. Translated into price, this would push XRP into the $15 to $20 range by the end of the year. Some ultra-bullish voices in the community even whisper about higher valuations, suggesting XRP could soar beyond the $20 threshold if adoption accelerates at an unprecedented pace. But while such extreme forecasts capture attention, most experts agree that the $15 to $20 zone remains the most reasonable target if all bullish catalysts align. This range strikes a balance between optimism and realism, offering XRP holders a compelling vision of what could be achieved in a best-case scenario while keeping expectations grounded in achievable market dynamics. XRP holders, the long wait may finally be over. With ETFs on the horizon, technicals flashing bullish signals, macro liquidity expanding, and community support stronger than ever, XRP is positioned for a historic breakout. The next few months could define XRP's legacy, not just as a speculative asset but as a legitimate force in the financial system. This is not financial advice, but one thing is clear: the final showdown is here. Bulls and bears are clashing, and the momentum suggests that this time, the bulls will win. If history repeats, Q4 2025 could be the quarter that XRP finally claims its long-awaited throne. What do you think, XRP Army? Will ETFs and liquidity send XRP soaring to $20, or even higher, or will the bears manage one last strike?